Appendix 2. I do have a few things to go through there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Here. Just to highlight a few things. As of early September, when I wrote this report, we had 314 members. My understanding is that we are still at 314, but that's a pretty substantial number. And I think most of the people that are retiring these days are, in fact, joining our association. Other things I'd like to highlight is, of course, as you remember, I think many of you will remember that as part of the 50th anniversary, the ROMU group created a memories book, which if you don't have it, we do have some copies for sale down at the reception desk. It's $29.95 plus GST, so I think about $31.50. So if you don't have one, you'd like one, they are available there. They are also available in the bookstore. So that was kind of our main endeavor a couple of years ago. Well, over the past year, I think we've undertaken two very important initiatives, one of which is the creation of a ROMU Student Award, a student bursary, which will be awarded for the first time this year. So it's a $1,000 award. And my understanding is, Kevin, you can maybe tell us, but I believe the application deadline has closed. It's in the process of selecting a recipient. I think by early November, we should know who that recipient is, and we will certainly acknowledge them in a future newsletter. Maybe invite them out to our theater night coming up at the end of November so that we can meet the students. So, and I do want to acknowledge where the money comes from to support this award. I've already mentioned one source, and that is the Bodnar family will be making a donation to the foundation in support of this. And we've got enough people here today to support one. We have a couple of other sources of revenue for this award. One is we have an honorary member. I have to keep remembering what's the difference between an associate and an honorary member. But Del Dilkey, which many of you will remember, is an honorary member, and Del has pledged $1,000 a year. So we already have $1,000 from her, and I presume that she will continue with that pledge. So maybe next year we'll be able to provide more than one award, or hopefully in the future. There are other ways for you to donate, but where's Paul Ansel? Paul down here, as many of you will know, Paul is a long-time member of McEwen in various ways. And at least early on, I know it's still a possibility, the opportunity for employees, faculty, and staff to undertake a planned giving type of program, an insurance policy in their name that will eventually go to McEwen. And I know that Paul and many other former members have these policies in place, especially if you were at McEwen when Terry Flanagan was the head of the foundation. I think Terry Flanagan met with almost everybody in the institution individually. And the original, when you take on one of these planned giving policies, you designate what you want the money to go to. And of course, over time, what you originally designated that money to go to may no longer exist, or it may have changed, or your wishes may have changed. And Paul has generously dedicated his planned giving policies to support this ROMU Student Award. So, Paul, would you like to say a few words about your reasoning behind this, and maybe talk to others about how they can do the same thing?
Thank you, Rick. I've still got my hands behind my back, and Terry Flanagan holding it to convince me to get into this. But yes, I'm delighted that when the time comes that I'm not with you anymore, my two life insurance policies, as of just a couple of weeks ago now, have been signed off and duly contracted off to go through the foundation to ROMU to help fund this bursary. And I didn't want it to go into the inevitable black hole of the McEwen Foundation where nobody sees where the money goes. Say that currently. But nevertheless, we decided that this was a good place to put that money. I had originally designated to go to a staff lounge, not faculty lounge, but a staff lounge. And I think we all know, I've been retired for 23 years now, that the government ain't going to fund no staff lounge. So what better place for it to go than to help fund the student who's in need. So I would encourage any of you who have those policies and whose hands are also behind their back like mine are, to please consider it carefully. There's no better cause, as far as I'm concerned, in the institution now, than to fund this bursary through the foundation and to our youth to help fund that bursary. So I encourage you to do so. And thanks for listening to me. I hope you all heard me. I'm quite loud, I see. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Paul. And as we mentioned, we know there are others amongst our membership that may be in a similar position of having these planned giving policies. If you are interested in having that money directed towards the student scholarship, we're more than happy to get that ball rolling for you. So, simply contact ROMU through our email address, retirees@mcewen.ca. And I should point out that with Paul's giving, that will actually, I think, provide enough funds for an endowment, so that annually at least $1,000 will come out of that endowment. So again, thanks to Paul and anybody else who would like to support that particular award. The other initiative that we've really undertaken this year, and I think this one will be close to a lot of your hearts, if not all of your hearts, and that is with respect to our namesake, Dr. Grant McEwen. I think many of you will be aware that it seems like over the past few years, the connection of McEwen as a university, as an institution, is kind of losing its contact with our namesake, Dr. McEwen. And I know I've always told people, you've heard me say this before, that when it comes to what makes McEwen unique as a post-secondary institution, I've always said, well, it's our namesake. Because our namesake provided us with a moral compass when it came to making decisions. So I've always felt that we should always have him in our memory. He should be front and center at the institution in terms of students, faculty, staff being aware of his life and his contribution to society. And so over the past year, we've looked for ways how we can maybe bring back a greater awareness of Dr. McEwen across the campus. And I'm pleased to say that discussions we've had with the president have been supportive. We haven't yet been told that any of our ideas are not worth pursuing or can't be pursued. And I was on campus last week, and I actually noticed a first step in that direction. There are now 2 small display cases on the ground floor at the east end of Building 6, just at the far end of where the bookstore is. And there's 2 display cabinets there with information about Dr. McEwen. It's mainly about McEwen Davis, some other information about him. So we've got to start. In our minds, that is just the start. We're not done yet. We've also, through discussions with the bookstore, they are in the process of creating a bookmark with information about Dr. McEwen. Now, many of you will remember that long ago there was a bookmark that was produced about Dr. McEwen, so we're revitalizing that. Of course, not everybody reads actual books these days, but these bookmarks will be available throughout the campus. We're also working with the bookstore. Apparently I don't know what the right word is here, whether they manage or look after all of the monitor screens, the information monitors throughout campus. And we've been in discussions with them about having information about Dr. McEwen rotated through as part of the information that's shown. So we'll be working on that. And lastly, we're looking at an initiative where we have a mobile display panel created with information about Dr. McEwen, his life, his contributions to society, his impact on the university, and so on. And that was kind of just in the early discussion stages. Obviously, that has to be created. We haven't quite figured out where the money might come from that, but we know where to ask for certain sources of money. So those are things that we're working on, and we're hoping that over the coming years, maybe the awareness of Dr. McEwen across the institution will be revitalized. So those are our kind of two initiatives that we took on this year, as in addition to all of the regular business that we do. So look forward to that. The last couple of things, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all the support that we do get from the university, certainly the President's Office, Kevin and the University Relations area, the Alumni Department. They support us morally, logistically, and financially. I think almost since our beginning, they've been providing us with $8,000 a year, most of which goes to our hosted theater night at the end of the year. We also have administrative costs and so on, and I want to acknowledge that ongoing support from them. We also get a lot of support from the McEwen bookstore. As I mentioned, some of these initiatives that we're already working on with Dr. McEwen are kind of being through the bookstore. In fact, a lot of these suggestions have come from the manager of the bookstore. Parking services provides free parking for our theater night. They provide free parking for our monthly leadership group meetings, so we must recognize them. Print services, they were instrumental in getting the book produced, and whenever we need more copies of it, they're quite happy to produce it at the same cost that it was originally. We have a couple of university archivists, Bella McLean and Kathy Blasco, and they're involved in, excuse me, in this creating an improved awareness of Dr. McEwen. Staff in human resources are involved with getting upcoming retirees aware of our association, and IT is involved in maintaining email addresses and so on. So I want to acknowledge all of those people. They're not here, but let's. Lastly, and I don't know whether this is, excuse me. I don't know whether this is the right place, the time and the agenda for this, but I have to acknowledge that my time as chair is coming to an end. I often say that I got hooked into ROMU soon after retiring by, I won't allow her to remain nameless, Doreen Haskell approached me right after I retired and asked if I would get involved. Well, joking aside, I'm very glad that I did get involved. I was initially just a member at large on the membership committee, or the leadership group, and Joe Sombat's not here, but at the time he was the head or chair of the committee, and I don't know whether he had a master plan in mind or whatever, but gradually over time he started missing meetings, and he would ask me if I would fill in as chair. Well, I think that was all part of his plan to eventually say, well, why don't you take over the position as chair? In positions like this, I've never been one to say no. I think when you're asked, invited to take a position like that, it's kind of an honor. So I said yes. Now, at that time, we didn't have bylaws. My recollection is I think I took on the position, full-time position, in something like January 7 years ago. And at that time, we didn't have bylaws. Well, 4 years ago, we brought in bylaws, and the bylaws state that you can only serve in a leadership group position for 2 consecutive 2-year terms. Well, my 2 years are up, so in my heart, sadly, I'm moving on from this position. I will stick with the leadership group. I'm not ready to give that up yet. But I do want to acknowledge that, yes, it takes a lot of work, and as I mentioned to some people, I've become an even better procrastinator than when I was actually employed, so I apologize to all the members of the leadership group that would get their agendas for the next day's meeting, the night before, and so on. But I've always said that if you're going to be productive and effective as a leader, there's one key to that, and that is to make sure you're surrounded by people that are energetic, passionate, dedicated, and they get the job done. And I have to say that I've been very fortunate to always be surrounded by a group of people that are always willing to step up, get the job done, come up with ideas, and I won't embarrass myself by trying to name all of you that have been involved in one way or another with the operation of this, but I did check the attendance list today, and I think we have 57 or I guess 48 association members, plus some guests. But of those 48, I went through the list. There are at least 20 people here that have been involved in the functioning of ROMU in one way or another. So again, I just want to acknowledge everybody, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you sincerely for all the support you've shown me over the years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm done talking for a while. I think it's time to turn the podium over to Harry, the treasurer, and he'll bring us up to date on all the business affairs of our group.
Thank you, Rick. This will be short and sweet, I hope. You all received in your agenda package a copy of the treasurer's report. So to put it on the floor, I would move acceptance of the treasurer's report for the 2022 year, 22-23 year. See, I don't even know which year we're working on. So it was in your agenda package. I would move. Is there a seconder to that? Mark a second. Okay.
Who was the mover, sir?
Me.
Oh,
Right, and Shaker too. So basically, a summary of the report. It was showed the budget for the year and the revenue against that budget, the expenses for the year against what was budgeted. Essentially, we ran a $25.85 deficit last year, which is in keeping with the budget principles of the not making money. Just being a pass-through for the activities of ROMU. So in that report is included the budget. Is also included the detailed report on the support we get that Rick mentioned from the alumni department and university relations and how those funds were expended. So that detail is there. Any questions on that report? Call for motion approval in. Okay, great, thank you. Also included in that, of course, was the general principles of the operating budget. The other thing in Appendix 4 was the proposed budget for the 23-24 year, which is based on the same principles and the same activities, which projects a $50 surplus at that point if we continue on our manner. So I would move approval of the operating budget for the 23-24 year. Is there a seconder to that? Catherine, all right. Any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you. And just to prove that on another subject, that I haven't cooked the books, how many of you are following Kathy Lehman on the Great Canadian Baking Show? Yeah, she's doing a great job, isn't she? It's amazing to see. Last Sunday night's thing that she prepared, they were preparing layered cookie cakes, and all of them were sweet, but she took the risk and made hers a savory cookie cake, which was really quite interesting. Anyway, it's an interesting show to watch, follow Kathy. thank you for that, and I'll continue to manage the books for another year, and we'll see if the auditor says I cooked the books or not.
And as Harry mentioned, our books do get audited. Don't know whether it's absolute. If we didn't do this, we'd get fined or something, but we do like to have our books audited every year to make sure that an outside set of eyes has looked at what we do and make sure that everything is above board and viewable by people. And I'm quite pleased to say that our auditor for this year is Tasha Fleet. Tasha, do you want to stand up? Tasha is actually a former student of McEwen. She got a diploma in accounting, is that right? And the degree, the BCom degree. She now is a CPA and has her own independent consulting firm. And I think it was Elsie Elford who suggested that Tasha might be interested in serving as our auditor for this year. So a huge thank you to Tasha for taking on that responsibility of looking at all of our financials and so on. Again, we're not going to go, we assume that you've looked at all of these. So I guess I'll just start by asking, are there any questions that we might pose to Tasha about the audit? Should I just quickly move on now? So could I have a motion to approve the auditor's report? Elsie, seconder. Denise Roy, all in favor? Okay. And there's one last bit of business related to the auditor. And that is that our bylaws also allow for the appointment of an auditor for the coming year to be approved at this particular meeting. And I'm very pleased to say that Tasha has volunteered to continue on as our auditor for next year. So I'd like a motion to approve Tasha as our auditor for the coming year. Dorothy Ritz, and a seconder. Ray Rietzma, all in favor? Super. Okay, moving right along here, we have the next few items are committee reports. Again, we're not going to go through all of these. Oh, Margot's on the move here. So we have committee reports from our social events and activities coordinator, our care conveners, and ambassador program report. So again, they're presented here for information, but I would just raise the opportunity here if anybody does have any questions about any of those reports. Now is the time to let us know, and I'm sure those conveners would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Catherine.
Hi everyone, I just thought I would take the opportunity, information hasn't come out yet, but many of you will know about a shop. And I'm sad to report that Joy died last Wednesday. So I've been working with her daughter. I will make sure that information comes out, but I thought I would take the opportunity.
Thanks, Catherine. Many of us will remember Joy as a long time leader in the Students Association and then in the mailroom at McEwen. So certainly a loss to our McEwen family. Item 7, nominating committee reports. So, Ada?
Hello everyone. We'd like to present to you the nomination committee report on behalf of the leadership group. As you can see, there are 3 roles that currently need filling, and would like to call for interest from the floor. As you can tell, and I'm sure you're aware, it's a wonderful group to be involved with, so really encourage anybody that has any interest to put their name forward. The three positions are that of recording secretary, newsletter committee chair, and a general member at large. Is there anybody who would like to put their name forward for either of those positions? Going once? Okay. In the future, if you consider that, then please feel free to reach out and contact anybody from the leadership group. Also presented on the report are people who have expressed interest in either carrying on their leadership role or commencing a new role. So in addition to the people that are noted on the report, is there anybody that would like to put their name forward for any of the other positions? With that said, we'd like to request a motion to approve the nomination committee report. Thank you. And second? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ada. I just want to, could I get that report back up?
Oh, no. You're not coming.
Okay, and then I will ad lib from here and assume that you remember everything that was on that report.
Okay,
But there, oh, there we go. So there are various descriptors with positions. For example, with vice chair, it says LCF was nominated to begin serving in the role. That word means that she would be beginning the first 2 years of an appointment, and subsequent to that be eligible for a subsequent 2-year appointment after that. For example, with the recording, with the treasurer, it says Harry David nominated to continue in role. That means he's finished 2 years of an appointment and he's volunteered to go on with his second 2-year term. So he's beginning a second 2-year term. And for care convener, for example, it says Catherine Heslip and Deborah Taylor willing to continue in that role. The difference here is that they're halfway through a 2-year appointment. So they began last year, they're continuing on in the second year of their position. So that's kind of the difference in wording up there. Joan?
Sorry, I meant to, or should have noted this earlier, both on the agenda and at the top of this, my name is mentioned as participating. I was added to the nominating group at the meeting last year, but I sat down and did not do any of the work, so it's all records made under different name. Just thought I'd mention.
Despite that, Joan has made numerous contributions to the leadership group and so on. So don't take that to mean that Joan was never involved in anything with the leadership group. She actually had some very valuable contributions. I think maybe on 1 or 2 occasions she called me out on certain things. So, and quite rightfully so. Okay, item 8, motions, is simply a listing of all of the motions that either at the AGM or through our meetings at the leadership group throughout the year, motions that we passed. So those should all be listed in Appendix 11, again, simply for information. Does anybody have any questions about any of those motions? Good, because I don't actually have them in front of me to know how I might answer any questions. As far as I know, there is no old business. New business, a couple of things. First of all, with the bylaws. And as I mentioned before, we developed our bylaws 4 years ago. And of course, as you may be aware, as you create these things, some things you're not fully aware of, or things come up that say, well, maybe we should have changed a few things, or maybe we need to add something. Well, over the past year, we've decided that there are a few things that we do need to address with our bylaws and make some amendments to them. Conveniently, as part of our bylaws, the leadership can do that on their own. We don't need to present a motion to the entire membership to get approval of these, so I guess we've used our dictatorial powers to make some changes. So I'm not going to go through all the bylaws, but I would like to highlight the changes that have been done. First of all, changes to Articles 4.1 and 4.2. So with 4.1, there's nothing highlighted there, but there actually is at least one change. We've added the position of immediate past chair. And I'll come back to that in a minute. The other thing with the membership relates to the portal information management specialist. And all of this will come up in 4.2. So 4.2 has now been amended to read, members of the leadership group accepting the position of chair, vice chair, immediate past chair, and portal information management specialist shall normally serve a 2-year term commencing at the annual general meeting at which they were appointed, and normally may only be appointed for a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. Now, originally that applied to all of the members of the leadership group. But as time moved on, as far as the chair position, we kind of thought that, you know, the chair position is somewhat unique and maybe critical in that it's important that the chair kind of be aware of the history of the group, what's been old business from the past year or two, and we didn't want to lose that by. Yes, it would be nice if somebody volunteered to come in cold and say, "Hey, I suddenly want to become a member of the leadership group and be the chair of the whole group." Well, that would be a very difficult position to fill. So what we did, a suggestion was made and was approved that in addition to the chair and the vice chair, that we create a position of immediate past chair. So now there's 3 positions: vice chair, chair, immediate past chair, and each of those positions will have a 1-year term. So you kind of move through, and in the past, there was no obligation on the part of the vice chair to be committed to become a chair in the future. Well, that has changed. The vice chair is now committed to becoming the chair in the subsequent year. So we kind of have a 3-year flow through for the chair position. So that's one of the main changes there. The other relates to the portal information management specialist. We'll go through some of the procedures later. You'll see more of the rationale for this later. I'll come back as to why we have decided that maybe that position needs to be an ongoing position as long as the leadership group is happy with that person in that position and that person is willing to continue. So I'll come back to that one in a minute. The next one is Article 8.1. And again, there's nothing highlighted here, but there has been a change here. 8.1 says the signing authority shall be set out by the leadership group for banking contracts and other records. And our approach to managing our monies is that there are 3 signing authorities on our bank account. And at least 2 of those have to sign off on any check or financial transaction within the institution. And originally, the 3 people were the social events coordinator, the treasurer, and the chair all had signing authority. Well, again, you live and learn, and it was brought up that maybe there was a conflict of interest that the person who was expending most of the money, which would be the social events coordinator, actually had signing authority for it. So we've decided that the signing authority, the 3 people with signing authority, should be the chair, the immediate past chair, and the treasurer. So that is a change we made. Article 10.3, I think this one might be a whole new clause in here. The use of the name Retirees of MacEwan University, the acronym ROMU, and logo of the association shall only be used by authorization of the leadership group. I think I might have been the guilty party when all this was initiated. I kind of, with good intentions, used the ROMU name on something else that I was working on. Joan, was it you that called me out on this one? Again, rightfully so. So we decided that we needed to have some kind of rationale behind when our name and logo and so on could be used and who had the authority to actually allow that to happen. So that's the reason for that clause. Lastly, for the bylaws itself, Article 13.1. Again, I think this might be a totally new clause where the chair shall arbitrate in the event of any conflicts that arise within the association. So anytime there might be a conflict amongst memberships or some of our functions and roles, the chair will be the arbitrator in those such activities. So those were changes to the bylaws. For the procedures, if we go to the procedures, item 1.2, this talks about the immediate past chair. This, of course, is a new position now. The immediate past chair shall serve as a resource to the chair and leadership group, provide input and historical context on ROMU matters, and as you mentioned, have signing authority. When, in my view, since I will be fulfilling that role, I had this vision of an immediate past chair as somebody that goes to the leadership group meetings, sits in the lazy boy chair in the corner, and when the need arises for me to provide some background information or some learned insight in terms of advising, I thought this seems like a pretty cushy role. I think it's a position we should have. I don't know who the guilty party is that come up with the idea that that person should also serve as the chair for the nominating committee for the future year. Thank you so much for adding that to this position. So I guess we now have a chair for the nominating committee for next year. Wasn't part of my vision, but I guess. And just as a warning, I may start my campaigning today. So if you start seeing me approach you, don't run for the doors, because I will intercept you somehow. Procedures 1.3, I've already mentioned this one. In terms of the vice chair position, that person will now transition in the next year to the chair position. 1.9.4, the portal information management specialist. As you can see, the responsibilities of this position is too extensive to put on one page up here. This is a rather critical position because it requires that that particular person maintain a close working association with HR at MacEwan, the IT people at MacEwan, as well as all of these other things that they do. And it would be very hard for a new person to step into that position every 2 years and maintain that functional role. So again, the leadership group decided that maybe that should just be an ongoing position, and gladly Margot seems happy to continue on in that position. And I think all the things you see listed there, I want to give you a flavor of the kinds of things she does. So thanks, Margot. Kevin, has Larry showed up?
I've heard from Larry, she's running a little bit late, she's definitely on her way. She'll most likely show up during lunch right quick. If there's any way to give her 5 minutes, she'll be back. She is on her way.
Okay. It's 11:57. I think our formal meeting is over. I don't think I need a motion to end the meeting. I think I can cut that off. Now, as Kevin said, our new VP of University Relations will be showing up. Since we're not quite sure exactly when that will be, I suggest, Dorothy?
Sorry to interrupt, but because we have a minute here, and it just occurred to me after but these two positions, the recording secretary and the chair for the newsletter, those are actually pretty important roles. And if you want to know more, you should probably speak to the persons who've been doing this before. But it's really very interesting. So for anybody that's interested in those two positions, they are still vacant. Yeah.
I think you've already started my job for me.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to serve as chair?
No.
Acting chair?
I'm good with what I'm doing right now.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Dorothy. Just one more thing I do want to mention. I see Joan raising her hand. I think she wanted me to bring up that her and Denise Roy on November 7th will be giving an online presentation of their experiences in Iceland, but also with horses in general. Is that my understanding? So keep the world. They've ridden their horses around the world. So on November 7th, there will be an online presentation. We'll provide more information about that in a future email distribution. So other than that, just a second, I have to see if we have time here. 11:59, you got a minute.
November 30th for theater night, and your invitation will be coming out later this week. There are 100 tickets available, so we'll get your name in early.
Great. So, Debbie, do you want to say something about the caterers and the lunch?
No, I just wanted to let people know that our lunch is provided by caterers called Sena out of Sherman Park, and they are very, very generous with the sandwiches. So please, when you actually are allowed 2 sandwiches or one sandwich has been cut in half. So please help yourself. Enjoy it. Have it for supper tonight. Anyways, I think they've left some cards which I'll put at the end if you're interested in this catering service. That's all.
Okay, so.
Just give me a second to pull all these tops off. We can eat.
Okay, so, and Kevin, when Lara shows up, we will interrupt your lunch and I will do an introduction to her and she'll say a few words of welcome as well. But again, thanks for your involvement, your participation today. Enjoy the museum. You got lots of time to have something to eat and enjoy this wonderful place. So again, thanks to everybody for participating today.